I got some hot takes on Onyx Storm, so let's really get into it. Hi everybody, it is your girl Dejane Atavia, and today's gonna be like a mixture of a booking with Nay as well as let's do our makeup situation, because I was just thinking about how Miss Yaros really got me messed up. If you have not read the Fourth Wing series, honestly, you should. I'm not gonna be saying the best things about Onyx Storm, which is the third book in the series, but the first two books are good. So read them all because I do believe there's gonna be a fourth book, but also don't get your hopes up for the last book. Also, don't take my word for it. But if you're watching and you're like, I'm not going to be caring at all about the Fourth Wing series, then you're fine. You're good. To summarize, the Fourth Wing follows a main character whose name is Violet Sorrendale. She goes to the school called Besgaiath way back when there was like a war with Venin, basically, which is like these like vampire people, but nobody knows about them. At first, she wanted to be a scribe who just basically writes down everything and is a history buff. But her mom was like, well, no, you're gonna learn how to be a writer and you're gonna fly on a dragon. And essentially it's her not only surviving the world of Besgaiath on the writer's quadrant, it's also about her surviving actual life, because they thinking they just gotta fight griffins, but there's also like vampire-esque somewhat ish creatures that they also have to fight. First book, she finds out that these vampire creatures exist. Second book, more unfolds. This third book is what I'm talking about. I'm going to be also doing a very experimental look just because I feel like it. I'm going to be using this palette right here, which is the matte book by the Crayon Case. I also have this palette, which is Warrior 2 palette by Juvia's Blaze. Y'all, why did the black break? Like, the black broke so bad. But I'm really just mostly using this red color that's in it. I will also likely be dipping into this Reality palette. It's by, I think, Dew Color. I got this off of Amazon. It's all the colors of the rainbow. Each one is its own palette, as well as these, whatever these is called, but they're water activated eyeliners. So let's get let's get attempting to whatever I'm about to do. I don't know what I'm about to do. Fair warning, if you haven't read Onyx Storm and you do plan to read Onyx Storm, it's a bunch of spoilers. You probably don't want to watch this video if you're gonna read the book and actually want to enjoy it. But my first problem with Onyx Storm was how much Violet becomes obsessive with Xaden. One of the reasons why I read Fourth Wing and continued on to Iron Flame is because while it was about like dragons and all this stuff, there was a subplot of romance, but that romance didn't necessarily take over the entire plot, in my personal opinion. It was death is coming at you, you need to learn how to survive. Also, here's some cute eye candy to kind of distract yourself when you absolutely need to. And I love Xaden. So like I get why she's down bad. But girl, I just honestly felt like it was too much of a, I don't know. I just felt like she was way too down bad for Xaden. And I don't know. I think it focused way too much on their relationship and in a way that didn't personally make sense to me with the carrying on, I guess, or like how they were in like the first book. The first book, obviously, they're enemies, then they start to kind of like become friends or whatever, and then they get more than friends. And then the second book is like the strain on the relationship, but the third one is like she's so obsessed that she's like, oh my gosh, you mean everything in and I'm trying to make sense of it, but I can't. The way that I can make it make sense for Xaden is because Xaden is now Venin, or no, Denigro Venin. He's Venin, and so he's trying to hold on to as many emotions as he possibly can because essentially his soul is damned to hell, basically. I don't know why part of me feels like if it's the other way around, Xaden would still fight for her and fight to find a cure, but he will also keep his distance to a certain degree. Still, his personality just gives that, like, I trust that you're not gonna hurt me, but I also have to take into account that, you know, you're vetted. And I feel like Violet just refused every which way to like believe that logic and have some form of rationale. She just I'm gonna be using the Jamata. I hope I said that. Jamata from the Warrior 2 palette. That leads me into issue like 1.5, I guess, is how much of their relationship was 100% the focal point of the book. I am a romance girly. I am, and I love, and I love all of the things. But I wanted to get into fantasy and not necessarily just romantasy, because it's kind of like, well, girl, now you're basically romance with like a tail and wings. I wanted to get like true raw fantasy. Now, granted, it's my fault because I should have looked up different books, but you know, that's neither here nor there. But I really did feel like the relationship was way more heavily mentioned, and it felt like there was a lot of issues for me, as far as like, it felt like every obstacle was about how their relationship would survive. Venom is still an issue. We're just now cool with the Griffins and their flyers, but like even they themselves are still an issue at hand. Navarre is still like everybody's still an issue, and we're talking about how, oh, students and teachers can't be together. Well, duh. I like the depth of this, y'all. But we're gonna go back into the reality palette, and we're gonna use this dark one. And that naturally just leads us to point 2. The plot, the plot, the plot. And I don't know, plot holes or just the conflicts. Terrible. I hated almost everyone. Mostly because it felt like, okay, and, or, okay, are we gonna expound on that? We're not. Okay. For example, oh, we're gonna make Zayden a professor. And she's like, oh my gosh. And he's like, what? It's like, oh, professors and students can't be together. We're gonna figure out a way around that. Only for him to be a professor for like a week. And then he either quit or he got fired. I forget. But I think he basically quit. And I'm not gonna lie, I understand why everybody was trying to keep them away from each other. But also, would it not make sense to want to keep them together as much as possible? They're hard to control, yes. But in the likely event that the Venom decide to strike again, what two are you going to need to fight them off? It's literally in like the text. Oh, the last time a lightning wielder and a shadow wielder was together was during the Great War. I'm not a betting girl, but if I was, I would bet that that means another one is on the way, you know? Y'all might disapprove of like the relationship, but y'all should also kind of low-key be sort of rooting for it, because they're y'all's best chance of survival. Though they can't be controlled, but they're always going to do what's right. So what's the issue? There's the whole Andarna situation where I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to find her people. We're going to find out like what type of dragon she is. That's so cool to me, at least, because I'm curious. Y'all got me curious. Only for her people to be total a-holes. Like, what? Only for them to be self-righteous and basically pricks. And then I hated that scene. I genuinely hated the scene when they first meet and they're just like, oh, they're still violent. Let's go home. What? 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 I felt like, I don't know. I felt like a lot of the issues or things that arose, they didn't draw out like the other books. Like in the first 2 books, there was problem after problem after problem. You have to peel away the layers in order to find the solutions, which is wrapped into another problem. Like it's so many layered incidents. It doesn't just turn over in a week. No, it's taking months, it's taking days. So for them to come and be like, oh, we're just not gonna help. Oh, okay. But I didn't like that scene. I didn't. And it's also because Andarna's a sweetheart. How could you do her like that? Yeah, she look crazy. But I love her. She all moody. She is such like the epitome of like a teenager. Why are we choosing to be mean to my homegirl? That was rude. That was pretty effing rude. I'm gonna take this color right here and put it on my lid. I could go on and on about plot issues that I had forever and ever. And then what really pissed me off was the fact that we find out that Violet was offered up or whatever and dedicated to the goddess Dune. That's why her hair is half silver. But when they were there, she never asked questions. As soon as you saw that there was, I think it was at least one person that had half silver hair and everybody else had just silver hair, you should have asked, why are you, am I tripping? Is she not curious in all the other books? Always trying to figure out what is what and why it's that? Why you see them like, oh, she's just like me, but you know, that's not what we're here for. It could be. It could be. Because what happens if they say, oh, you actually got magical powers? She asked no questions. Brennan and her sister get into an argument. That's when it's like, oh, well, yeah, dad offered her up to the goddess. That's when you find out. Not because your own questioning. Be so for real. If we can't be anything in this lifetime, let's all be for real. Issue number 3 for me is simply the pacing was not there. It felt like it drug and happened too fast all at the same time. I vividly remember the first 2 books being like slow in the beginning and then extremely fast paced at the end. This one, it was just slow. The last 2 chapters didn't make sense to me. And don't get me wrong, this isn't like solely to bash the book and the like series or whatever, but I just know that there's more. Like I know what she is capable of. She's not telling us what she can give in this book. I will say though, she did open up a lot of room to be able to make as many books and potentially spin-offs as possible. Onyx Storm, I just felt like was a kerfluffle of like plot ideas that got thrown together. My godmom made a point because I forced her to read it. She was like, maybe she's setting up so that this can be like a filler book and then the more intense stuff comes later. But I also feel like it didn't have to be a filler. It didn't have to feel like a filler. And it's just, it stressed me out. However, it has not made me give up on the series. I wish a new book was coming out today. I actually wish 2 new ones were coming out today because I really loved the first 2. And the third one, it had something. I'm going to I'm going to do the rest of my face and then I'll be back to show you what it all looks like together. Yeah. Oh. Okay, it's about to rain outside and my dogs are barking. So if you hear any of that in the background, listen, life is getting real chaotic. This is the lip look. I eat that up. I honestly feel like I can do better. I might have to retry this, but with different colors. That's my opinions on the Onyx Storm. That's also my experimenting with this look. I hope you guys like it. Please comment, like, subscribe, all of the things that you're supposed to do on social media. Follow me on all the other platforms. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.